Hello, everybody. This
Hello.
is Ira Warren.
My name is Divine Warren.
And we are
As one.
As one. How y'all doing this evening?
Hopefully great.
Yes, this has been a long week. It just seems like the more stuff that is coming up in our lives, it just seems like the days are longer, but the weeks seem shorter. I don't know if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But anyway, our topic tonight is going to be things are not always going to make sense. And that topic is so true in every sense. I'm going to give you guys some just a little story. Prior to me moving to Philadelphia, I was living in San Antonio, Texas, and everything just seemed to be going so well. I had a candy store. I had the job of my dreams. I was working for the military, and I was going to church, and I was hearing all these powerful messages, and my pastor, he was talking about David and how he was in the wilderness, and before he was, king, he had to go through some stuff. He had to go through the storm. He had to lose to gain and all this, and I was just like, well, why is he preaching on that? Nobody want to hear nothing about David, because I wasn't back there. I don't know. But it just seemed like sermon after sermon, every time I would go on Saturday just to hear these messages, it seemed like they were directed towards me. But you could hear something and not knowing that sometimes God will give you just a little bit of leeway to prepare you for some stuff. But because I'm that hard-headed person, I'll be ignoring, oh, that's not for me, that's for somebody else. Until one night, I remember calling Divine and I said, I have to shut my candy store down. All of a sudden it was going good. I was making the money. I was able to hire college and high school students to come and work for me. I just had everything going good. And then all of a sudden the house, I lost my house. I couldn't buy any food. Divine was sending me money just so I could eat. I mean, everything just fell apart overnight. And I was just like, okay, what did I do? What's the problem? And, so God was like, I'm trying to get you to go over here and you still holding on to this. And it's sort of like a child when you go to a playroom and you see these two kids playing, and then this one kid brings in a toy. And it wasn't part of the play center, but this child just so happened to bring in a toy. And then your child walks over and he takes this kid's toy. And then all of a sudden they playing tug of war. That's how I felt. I felt like I was like, God, wait a minute, I work hard for this, what you doing? I was so I'm just sitting up here pulling, and I'm going and knowing I wasn't gonna win. But I tried. The old saying, the old people used to say, your arms is too short to box with God. Yeah, mine is a little short. So I just assumed that's where he wanted me to be. I assumed that's where my feet was planted at, because I was like, God, I prayed to work as a minister in the military for so many years. And then when it came into fruition, I was so happy. I was like, yeah. But then some things took a turn. Babe came to visit me. He said, okay, well, I'm going to come and visit you in March. This was 2014. He was like, okay, I'm going to come and visit you. And I had it all planned. I said, yeah, you can come, and, we can have the engagement party, and we can do X, Y, and Z. And then I'll send you back on your way on a Sunday or whatever day he was supposed to be going back on. It was March 14th or something like that. And then I was going to drive back to San Antonio because we were in Texas, Katy, Texas, visiting my parents. So like I said, I had this whole plan. I was going to see him, and he was going to come and visit, and he was going to come back home. And then I was going to finish out, my assignment with the military. And then I was going to come August 2014, to permanently stay. But in my hearts of hearts, I was going to come. Yeah, August 15th. Yeah, that's right. 2015, I was going to come and stay. But in my hearts of hearts, I really didn't want to let go of my stuff. I was like, I had my own Trinity going on. Me, myself, and I got this together, and I did this, and yeah, God, I know you, thank you, I know you, you made a way for me, everything. But sometimes everything is not God. A lot of things is you, we does, the power, God lives within us, and he gives us the power and the strength and the knowledge and the wisdom to obtain and to do things and the know-how to do stuff. But a lot of times, a lot of things is not God. Sometimes he'll allow you to go through it to let you know it wasn't even you. Go figure that. So with me losing just the stuff, not only did I lose stuff, I lost people in my life. So I just thought, people gonna be in my life for the duration. I got all these people happy for me, and I'm happy for me. And then I started losing friends. And I maybe had one friend, and that was Amanda and Tayon Reed. That was really they really hung in there with me when I lost the house, the candy store. They didn't bash me. They didn't look down on me when I had everybody else, even family members. Oh, so you lost your house? Oh, you lost your candy store. So what you gonna do now? So that's what it was. I felt some type of way, and I was just like, why I gotta go through this storm? What did I do wrong? And then Babe would say, well, sometimes you gotta go through the storm, and then when the storm clear and the rubbish is all picked up, I didn't want to hear that. I was like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I want to know, why is this here happening to me? So God moved everything out of the way. I get an email from the military 2 days into my honey visiting, me and my parents at their home. They said, well, we're sorry to tell you, that all your clearances didn't go through. However, we could give you a desk job, until everything get cleared. But however, until all of this is done, you would have to sit behind a desk or whatever because you can't work with the children in the military until this is done. I'm just like, okay. So right then and there, I had to make a decision whether I was going to stay or whether I was going to go. So my decision, I did go, but I was still hesitant. I was like, oh, I've been in Texas for 32 years. What you talking about leaving? I can't, But then I had to look my husband in the eye and say, I'm coming back with you. He didn't say nothing. He was like, is that what you want to do? I was like, yeah. And he was like, I know it's going to feel awkward and, and I know this is not, the idea of the way things you want it to happen or the way we want it to happen. But as long as we got each other, we can move forward. We can make this thing happen. And a whole lot of stuff was going on in my mind. What are my kids going to think? What are my family going to think? What are people going to think about me? It's like I abandoned my country. I can't leave. I got to stay right here, so I can go to another country. That's how I felt. But God, that's how God does things. He moves it around, and what can you do?
That's true. I was just sitting here laughing to myself. I was like, I'm glad Babe went first today. She made a delicious dinner, and it was just marinating in my stomach. So I was just sitting here chilling.
Chicken curry.
Feeling and it was banging. Sitting here feeling a little tired, but it's all good. But, when Babe, when she describes her story, it's always so funny to me because some things is not gonna make sense to you at first. In her particular situation, I think things fell exactly the way that they were supposed to fall. There's no such thing as a coincidence. Mm-hmm. Why did they tell her 2 days of me being in Texas, and I'm all the way from Philly? They tell her 2 days of me being there that her clearances didn't go through.
And mind you, let me say this back. Yeah. I had been working for the military 6 months. I was 6 months in. And then all of a sudden, no clearances. And then when I checked my ID, when I got in the car, they told me that the assignment was for a year. So I started in December of 2014. No, started in November of 2014. And I looked on my card. It was supposed to go from December to December or November to November, whatever it was. But when I looked at my card, they said that the assignment was up in September. So I wasn't even paying attention to that until I looked at that card. I'm sorry, baby. I mean, cut you off.
But see, that's funny. Sometimes going through adversity brings about clarity. So, like I was saying, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in good luck. I don't believe that you were lucky. I believe that things fall the way that they may. I believe that God works through people. Now, let me just back up a little. why did they have to tell her 2 days of me being on my trip in Texas? Why didn't they tell her the month before? Why didn't they tell her the month after? It's sometimes, like I said, you go through things and you may not understand what's going on. She had things removed from her life. She had a candy store. She was, had a place, a house. She had other stuff that was popping up in her life. But all of a sudden, little by little, it was like the tree was being chopped down right before her so that she could get a better look at the field beyond the tree. Because if the trees would have still been in place, she might not have been able to see the field.
I may not have gotten the fruit.
Exactly. And you're just looking at the fruit of your labor at that particular time, but maybe that was just the labor for that particular time.
Right.
And maybe that was just the fruit that was being born or bared due to that labor. And everything that's in your life isn't always meant to go the duration. It's like people. Some people are there for the duration. Some people may be in your life for limited, periods of time. You may have a house this week, something could happen, and later on down the line, you may not have a house next week, but that may be what you need at that particular time to be moved forward, to be put in a better predicament or a better home, or, advance your career and move somewhere else. So on the topic, sometimes things is not going to be or seem clear to you at particular times in your life. It's like almost like being in a relationship, and I like to use this analogy because it gives you an idea of how things could change.
Right.
Now, just imagine yourself just getting into a new relationship with somebody. Most of the time, unless you're just dealing with a fool, everybody's going to be on their best behavior. The representative doesn't necessarily mean that that's how they are on a day-to-day basis, but this is the person that they want to present to you because this is the person they feel as though they have to be at that particular time to maybe woo you, make you feel like they're the right person for you, or, just to try to butter you up or sucker you in, depending on, what they're trying to do. But they're acting a particular way to get particular results.
Right.
Whatever they're trying to do, trick you, fool you, or whatever they're trying to do, they're acting that particular way for a reason. Okay, so a lot of people tend to do this for a period of time. Some people a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. But over a period of time, you may start to see that things are adjusting in their personality. And just stay with me because I'm going to tie it back in to the topic. You may start to see things adjusting in their personality. You're like, well, damn, who is this particular person? Or it could even be for a good thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It could be in a good way. You'd be like, damn, this person had all these magnificent qualities. If I wouldn't have got with this person, or if I'd have looked at just stuff for face value, I might not even have dealt with this person. So as time goes on, then the representative starts to fade away. Then you start to get some clarity. It could go in a good direction, or it could go in a bad direction. But over time, some of the things that you didn't know of that particular person, some of the things that, didn't make sense at a particular time, i.e., let's just say if they have like a particular fetish, and I'm not talking about sexual, some people may want to sleep on this side of the bed. Some people may only eat beef instead of eating pork, or a person might be a night owl. Your woman might like to sleep with pajamas or no pajamas or just naked. These are things that you may find over a period of time. But as time goes on, you start to get some clarity of particular situations dealing with this person. And that's kind of how things go in life. Sometimes you're presented with obstacles so that it could move stuff out the way so that you can start to see the real path you're supposed to take.
Right.
It may seem awkward to you. You might start to feel like, well, damn, I'm losing all this stuff. But in losing, you can be gaining. And that's some of the stuff that we have to, keep in mind. Just because you don't see the answer right then, it doesn't mean that it's not an answer. In due time, things would start to change and things may develop, like when you're in a relationship, and then you start to see, well, damn, this person is genuine. This person is a lovable person. This person likes me. Oh, I could see me spending time with this particular person. Oh, I could see me loving this particular time. I could see me loving this person over time, and it all takes time. But what I was trying to tie in, sometimes if you just try to look at the most obvious details and the most obvious things that's being presented to you, you actually overlook the whole dynamic. You overlook the whole situation. You might overlook the whole gift.
Right.
You know, so just because something is taken out of your life, even though it's stuff that you may have acquired and you may became accustomed of having, it doesn't mean that it wasn't done for a reason. And sometimes, like I said, you have to go through adversity in order to see the other side.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really good, you know, advice. Y'all, you know what, doing these videos, they help me. I mean, I go back and just listen to it after, you know, but they really, really, really help me. So things aren't always going to make sense. Okay, I'm going to tell y'all this little story. The first time I came up here to visit to Philadelphia to, you know, meet my husband now, he would stand over me. I was like, what is wrong with what is wrong with you? And he would say, I'm just etching you in my mind, girl. I just want to burn you in my memory. And I'm just like, this brother got more he got more games than a Cracker Jack box. I'm like, what is he talking about? You know? And he was like, you don't even know. I was like, I don't know what. You know, naive, crazy. I'm like, what? He's like, you don't even know. I said, no, what? He's like, you don't even know you're going to be mine. I was like, man, he really not making sense. So I said, like, I'm just here to visit you. Can we just start right there? Can we just eat this pie and this Philly cheesesteak with ketchup on it and go on with our night? You know, so that was what I was thinking in my mind. So, I mean, he wouldn't even, he could barely eat his food because in his mind, things made sense because he could see, you know, she don't know she gonna be my future. She don't know we gonna have a life together. And, you know, he kept saying, you don't even know. You don't even know. I was like, okay, I guess I don't know. The second time I came to visit him was the same year, but it was after Christmas, 2014. And I came to visit for 11 days. And y'all, let me tell you something. I came back to say, well, let's just be friends. I don't want to, you know, I'm so far away. You know, how's this going to work out? Yeah, the whole telephone thing is cool, you know. And then his best friend gets on the phone. And she was talking to him. And she said, I don't think she's putting everything on the table. And then I could hear him saying, you know, I could hear because he had on speaker, so I could hear what she was saying. And then eventually she said, put her on the phone. And then so she's like, look, I think you're a nice girl. You know, I think you cute or whatever, but I don't think you got all the cards on the table. And I was like, who's she talking to? You not dating them. You know, that's your bestie. You know, she real good people. But I was just like, this female crazy. Let me make my own decision on what I want to say. And so anyway, Divine gets off the phone with her. And I was, you know, in a situationship. It wasn't no relationship. I just thought, let me just stay what in this situationship. It was, like I said, it wasn't even a relationship. I was just doing something because I just didn't want to look like I was just bouncing all over the place. And I was going to go back home and try to make something work out that shouldn't have even been. But anyway, he was right. Divine was right. You know, he saw it before I could even see it. You know, did I want to see it? Yeah, I did. I wanted to see it, but I was scared. Sometimes you're scared to move out of your comfort zone, you know, because things that look crazy or abnormal, those are the things that really make sense, you know, because you trying to make sense out of your sense and what you think it should be. It's not about you. And the more and more and more I understand why I'm here, and the more and more I let my guard down and stop running and stop, because I'm a runner, y'all. When things get crazy, I'm ready to book up out of here. I'm ready to go. But the more and more I let go of the rope, because if you slide down the rope, it's gonna burn. It's gonna burn your hands. I seen something on Facebook where somebody was holding on to a rope and they was snatching, and then eventually, you know, their hands was all messed up and everything, and that's me. And so, yeah, if we had 2 hours, just a good 2 hours, I could tell y'all the blessings that have come out of me letting go. So you got to let go. You got to let go of what you think is, because like I said, when you holding on to your stuff, it just make only sense to you. It makes sense to you only. But when stuff is abnormal and it's all scrambled eggs and it's all over the place, then that's when it makes sense. And I had wrote something on this piece of paper, and it says, "Don't doubt before the dream sprout." You just you just doubting, and that was me. I was doubting Debbie. I was like, I don't know what. I couldn't, jobs weren't. I got a job, and then I was having problems with my knees. Then I got another job working with children that were autistic and all that, and then it was sporadic. The money wasn't coming, the hours wasn't coming like I would have liked, but it was like I was losing everything. My phone, all my credit cards got ran up because I'm trying to take care of my child that's a chef, was going to school. I was paying his cell phone, my cell phone, paying car notes. And, I was just doing all of this stuff. And then in the process of me being here, I lost more stuff trying to hold on to what was back in Texas. And so that didn't make sense at all. So my wonderful husband here, he was like, look, I'll just put you on my plan. In the midst of me losing everything, I was so busy looking back. He was taking care of everything for me, and I was just telling him, I have more stuff now than I've ever had, because I took care of my children, or I was too busy giving to other people, so that's why I couldn't see my future. That's why I couldn't see, what God had in store for me, because I was so busy just pouring myself and giving to everybody else. Till when I came here, I didn't see no dream here. Everything looked crazy up here. I was like, this ain't Texas. This look crazy. These row houses and paper everywhere and people looking crazy and females walking around with their stomach and stuff hanging out and people looking at you like this and who you is and I know you're not from here and touching me and all. I was like, oh, I can't, So babe had to school me. He was like, okay, you're not in Texas. You here. Things is different here than down south. People talk different. People walk different. People look different. People do things different. People cook different. People snap their fingers different from how you say, what up, what up, Wody, or however, whatever we say down south. Everything is different. It's totally different. So things are not going to make sense, but as you start dropping your garment of what you think things should be, that's when things get better. That's when it makes sense. That's when you can follow your dreams. That's when you can, support your partner and things that they're going through. My honey's going through some things right now. I can't disclose it right now. He's going through some things, but even in that, I get frustrated. I don't take out no trash. I ain't doing this. And his thing is, it's always a blessing, in the chaos. It's always a blessing in disguise. And I'm like, taking out this stinky trash is not no blessing in disguise. So, you automatically, it's like you put negative and positive forces together. His always win though, because his energy level is always higher than mine at times. It's not that I want to doubt. I just be like, well, it just makes sense for it to feel this way or be this way. Feelings is fickle. So sometimes you got to move your emotions out of the way. And I'm learning that emotions is emotions. And you gotta, you gotta move yourself out the way. You just have to.
And like she was talking about, blessings could come disguised as anything. It's not always going to come disguised as a bundle of roses. I could tell you that. But, when she, like I said, it's just so funny. Even how we met into how we got to the point that we are now, it doesn't even make sense to people that we talk to. Like when we tell people be like, well, how did y'all meet and what about this and y'all talk? And when we start to tell them, they was like, well, damn, okay, y'all met online, on Facebook, not even trying to kick it to each other, not even trying to talk to each other. I didn't even go look at her picture after she reached out to me. She reached out through a friend, then she reached out to me. And then that's how we initially met. And then after that, sometime went not even a day or so, we spoke, got on the phone, connection was made, and I'm just abbreviating it. A connection was made. Now she's sitting here as my wife. Now, if you would have asked me on the first couple of days or the first week or so, even though I felt the connection, it didn't make sense to me at the time because she was 2,000 miles away in a different scenario, under different circumstances, working at the job, one of the jobs of her dreams, owning stuff. And I'm all the way up here. We don't know each other. And like I said, I didn't even go look at her picture. So at first, I wasn't even going at it from that angle. So being in a relationship to us being married, that wouldn't have made sense to me. But like I said, sometimes things have to be put in play so that mountains could be moved out the way. Some of her mountains were the stuff that she was talking about. She had stuff, and it's not a bad thing to have stuff, but she was tied into the stuff. So when stuff was being removed, she was angry. And I remember when I used to talk to her on the phone, I used to be like, look, okay, you're going through this trial and tribulation right now, but things are probably or could get better on the other side. Sometimes things have to be removed to get your attention. I remember telling her stuff like that, and she wasn't trying to hear me. She wasn't trying to hear me at all. And then I used to be like, well, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I was doubtful. I was like, okay, we kicking it over a period of time. We talking on the phone. We sharing intimate stuff. We going back and forth. She want to know where I'm at. I want to know where she's at. She's sending me texts. I'm sending her texts. Scenario was crazy. I'm not going to go all the way into that. But her scenario was crazy. But at the same time, through all the chaos and confusion, we were still building a bond.
Yeah.
So that's why I say sometimes things have to be removed or some chaos has to come for things to be shaken up enough to see that you want to do something different. And then I always feel like I have to follow my heart. But in following my heart, I still have to respect my mind. So what I mean by that, my heart may be telling me something, but at the same time, I'm one of them people, I'm a thinker. So, okay, my heart is telling me something, but then I have to ask myself, does it make sense to me? And as I just said, it didn't make sense. But I know that all things are possible. Sometimes we have to move out the way so that we can see the reflection of the light. And I'm not trying to get all, I'm just saying, sometimes you have to move yourself out the way to protect yourself from you. So we got together. We are married. We've been married 6 months. We're actually still newlyweds. And to me, it's a good thing that we actually do these videos because in doing this, we want to do it to help others, but in exposing some of the stuff that we've been through, exposing some of the stuff that goes on in our relationship, we help ourselves as well. Sometimes it's not good to look too far into stuff.
Ooh, that's me. Me, babe, I always tell me to slow down.
You really have to pay attention to that because if you really want to see something bad enough, you'll convince yourself that you're seeing something that doesn't even really exist. Just also keep in mind that we're a couple, but she's not in my life to fulfill my every need. And I'm not in her life to fulfill her every need because there's some needs that we have to fulfill ourselves. Give your partner a break. You know what I mean? Babes has a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff coming our way that's positive. I'm not trying to do nothing to dampen her spirit. I'm not trying to do nothing to dampen her momentum. I'm just trying to be the best partner, the best husband, the best everything I can be so that she can continue to go in the direction that she's trying to go. I want to be the next part of her motivation. She has her motivation within inside her. I have motivation inside me, and together we come together as one so that we can motivate each other to move forward. And just another thing, I'm pausing. I was trying to say it, but anyway, just keep in mind that everything isn't in your life forever. It's a season for everything. People, places, things, everything is in your life forever. And when some things may seem too oddly out of place, or things may seem too crazy, maybe it's time to give yourself a break and tap into your higher power. It's always a need to tap into your higher power. I'm just glad that we share our common bond together. And the things that didn't used to make sense before is starting to fall in place more and more. And now I'm starting to see that things were really meant for us to be together. And if we would have followed those first inklings of he's 2,000 miles away, she's in a particular situation, she's doing that there, I'm doing that here, we might have missed out on one of the best things I know that has ever happened in my life. You know, I was one of them people that I didn't even think of marriage as being something that I wanted to do. And I just want to say this before I close out. Just keep in mind, there's always a higher power that resides within you. Mm-hmm. You know, so some things are too far out your reach. Some things are not making sense. You know, tap into the power that resides within you.
Yeah, and I think you said it all, babe. You know, so keep in mind, things are not always going to make sense.
And we are sure
but
not
as
perfect.
you continue to walk and keep moving, my babe always say this, keep moving in the direction we want to go, then it's going to start making sense.
No doubt about it, baby.
Okay, well, this is Ira Warren.
And my name is Devon Warren.
And we're As One.
And to close out on another one of our shows, and like we always do,
Peace.